So thank you very much for joining us here on Accelerating Digital Connectivity through eSIM. This is part of GSMA Services Showcase Live series. We run these addressing some of the key industry challenges, technologies, and how we can help support. So my name is Chris Sumner-Smith. I'm going to be your host today. I work within the GSMA Services team, and our role is to improve and support global connectivity. In our unique position as industry representatives, this allows organizations to trust us, whether that's as a single source of truth for TAC data, eSIM provisioning, or many other things. But today isn't about me. It's about the experts that I have here with me, and it's about all of you at home. So just before I introduce them, I just wanted to let you know that we'll be running a series of polls throughout the webinar today. So please do get involved with these. Just give your opinion on the subjects involved. We want to see where people's knowledge is and where your thoughts are. As I mentioned earlier, you can ask us questions at any point using the chat function, and we will get to them at the end. We've left about 15 minutes for Q&A then. And just a final thing, we will be recording this webinar and we will be sending you a copy of the slides. So there's absolutely no need to try and scribble and take notes. Use your time wisely, pay attention, get involved with polls, get involved within the chat. And this is our agenda today. So joining me, we have Pablo Jacopino, who is Head of Research and Commercial Content at GSMA Advance. We have Gloria Trujillo, who is eSIM Technical Director here at GSMA. We have Yolanda Sands, I should say, eSIM Technical Director GSMA, and we have Chris Lee, who is Product Director for eSIM at GSMA. So it really is the all-star cast of eSIM and everything we can offer at the GSMA. So that's enough from me for now. I will be handing over to Pablo, and I will speak with you all later. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Pablo Jacopino, Head of Research at GSMA Intelligence. Glad to connect with all of you. Over the next 10 minutes, we will be looking together at some of the trends that are shaping the eSIM market across consumer and enterprise, and some of the things to watch in 2024. So momentum for eSIM is accelerating globally. Here we see 6 trends that are shaping the market. Starting from consumer, the launch of eSIM-only smartphones in the US in September 2022 has accelerated eSIM deployments and commercial launches globally. And I'm glad to say that 2023 was the strongest year ever for eSIM, and I will elaborate on this. Then what we see is that more and more operators are launching eSIM service. However, the MNO commercial push remains low, and I will elaborate on this. Some operators are leveraging eSIM to launch digital-first or digital-only consumer propositions, including digital brands. That is an interesting trend happening in the market. When it comes to consumers, consumer awareness of eSIM is growing. However, adoption is still low, with the only exception of the US due to the launch of eSIM-only iPhones. That means that the consumer transition to eSIM will take time. In terms of IoT, the trends that we see is that eSIM is moving beyond automotive and at the same time is making inroads into private networks. Last but not least, ecosystem work on global specifications continues, including for IoT, consumer, and integrated eUICC. And my colleagues Gloria and Yolanda will go deeper on this. Next slide, please. Let's start with the consumer, eSIM for consumers. At GSMA Intelligence, we track many things. One of these things is commercial availability of eSIM consumer devices. How many eSIM consumer devices have been launched in recent years? There has been significant growth over the last 5 years across smartphones, smartwatches, tablets, laptops. We also see some 5G fixed wireless devices with eSIM capability, and also consumer IoT devices from bikes to GPS trackers, security cameras. I want to call out a few important things. First of all, most of the top OEMs have launched eSIM. This is important because major brands drive innovation. Secondly, if we look at smartphones plus tablets plus smartwatches, I'm glad to share that at the end of December 2023, the cumulative number of eSIM devices across smartphones, smartwatches, and tablets reached 200. That is a big, big milestone for the industry. When it comes to the smartphone market, obviously the biggest change was the launch of eSIM-only iPhones in the US in September 2022. That was a big milestone. What we see is that eSIM is now mainstream in flagship smartphones. However, there is still limited availability beyond flagship smartphones. Next slide, please. The other thing that we track is how many countries have launched commercial eSIM service for smartphones. So here I'm talking about eSIM service for domestic use, because obviously if we include international roaming, eSIM is pretty much everywhere. There's been a significant acceleration in recent years. As of June 2023, eSIM was available in 116 countries. That means that more than half of the world's countries have launched eSIM service. China is still an exception, and what we know is that the timeline for commercial availability of eSIM service in smartphones is still unclear in China. However, eSIM service in China is available for IoT applications and for smartwatches. Africa is catching up. In fact, if we look at the 16 countries that launched eSIM for the first time in the first half of 2023, the vast majority of those 16 countries were countries in Africa. So developing regions are catching up as well. Next slide, please. The other thing that we track is how many operators have launched commercial eSIM service for smartphones. Here we look at MNOs, MVNOs, as well as global providers of international roaming services. The number reached 400 in June 2023. There has been an acceleration in recent months due to the launch of eSIM-only smartphones in the US. And this acceleration is clear from this slide. MNOs are driving eSIM for international roaming, so definitely good momentum for commercial availability of eSIM service. However, clicking on the animation, one of the challenges is that operators are making eSIM service available to consumers, but are not doing much so far to promote eSIM to their customers. This means that they are launching the service, but they don't talk much about eSIM to their customers. And in fact, based on our consumer survey, when we look at consumers who are aware of eSIM, so consumers who know what eSIM is, only 11% of those have discovered the eSIM technology through operator channels and operator push. 11% is a low percentage. If you want to know what is the biggest driver of eSIM awareness, I have the right answer for you, is reading an article about eSIM. Next slide, please. So new business models are emerging, and eSIM is helping with the rise of new business models. These business models are digital business models. So a range of operators have launched digital first or digital only consumer propositions, targeting digital native and people who makes great use of technology. And in this case, eSIM is used as the main connectivity form factor. There are different examples of digital brands, Visible in the US, Fits in Canada, Teliadot in Finland, Source in France, Winbin in Morocco, and Udo in Malaysia. And we expect this list to become even bigger in 2024. Next slide, please. So we have been talking about developments so far. How do we see future adoption of eSIM in the smartphone market? As you know, at GSMA Intelligence, we run 3 scenarios: low adoption, baseline, high adoption. It's fair to say that In the next couple of years, we will see an acceleration, but the real acceleration will come after 2025 for a couple of reasons. China launching a 5G eSIM, and also because the replacement rates for smartphones are typically 2-3 years. If we focus on the baseline scenario, I want to call out a few milestones that we see. So 1 billion eSIM connections by 2025, and the other important milestone, by 2028, half of the smartphone connections will use eSIM. North America is the region leading on eSIM adoption. Europe is the second largest. Next slide, please. When we talk about IoT, IoT is a promising market for eSIM because eSIM helps scale IoT, enabling digital transformation. So far, what we see is that eSIM is already mainstream in automotive. Beyond automotive, there are single initiatives rather than sector-wide deployments. However, a number of trends are promising. They point to an acceleration of eSIM. Recent developments such as new eSIM specifications, integrated SIM, RedCap technology, combined with continuous product innovation from eSIM vendors should help accelerate adoption. How big is the IoT cellular market? We forecast 5.8 billion connections by the end of 2030 globally, which means that eSIM and integrated SIM are targeting a growing share of the market. Next slide, please. So why is eSIM important for IoT deployments? We asked these questions to enterprises as well as operators. And it's good to see that there is an alignment between the benefits of eSIM for IoT deployments expected by end user enterprises and those promoted by operators. The benefits are around best-in-class security provided by eSIM and scalability. The use of eSIM in order to scale deployments of eSIM across many large volumes of devices. So these are important benefits that the industry should leverage. Next slide, please. Okay, so when we look at 2024, there are important developments that we need to watch throughout the year because these developments are important to accelerate eSIM adoption in consumer and enterprise markets. I've got 5 here. Number 1, will Apple launch eSIM-only smartphones in Europe? According to our consensus of eSIM vendors, Apple will launch eSIM-only iPhones in selected European countries in 2024. That is an expectation. Will we see greater availability of eSIM technology in low and medium-end smartphones? This is important to drive adoption in emerging markets. Point number 3, will MNOs start to talk more about eSIM to their customers? This is another factor that could accelerate adoption. Will eSIM have an impact on churn rate? I will do some analysis on this over the next couple of months, and I will be happy to share the key findings. Last but not least, will eSIM start to scale in vertical sectors beyond automotive? So these are 5 important developments to watch throughout 2024.
First of all, my name is Gloria Trujillo. I'm GSMA eSIM Group Director, and I have been leading the working group that developed the eSIM IoT specifications within GSMA. So I'm going to start my presentation is about eSIM IoT. And I'd like to start to show you a few examples in which IoT devices could we find, in which kind of IoT devices we could find an eSIM. One of them, for example, could be a drone. A drone, as we know, it is controlled remotely. So this is one of the use cases, having the drone and eSIM that is controlled remotely. Another one could be, for example, a smart shirt. I know, a very common use case, but it is indeed a device that doesn't have a screen, and it does require an interaction remotely or via a secondary device. So this can be actually managed. So there is also the example of the smart glasses, where while there may be a screen and some sort of interaction, there may be also the need of interacting more widely as of simply clicking or saying yes and no to the smart glasses. So this is potentially another use case where we could find an eSIM. And there is also the smart globe situation. Obviously, if we wanted to look as close as possible to a normal globe, we will see without a screen, and we'll have to control it either remotely or via a secondary device. So these are the use cases where we could potentially find an eSIM IoT in our devices that we have, for example, at home. And why starting like this? It is because where the need came up when we were talking about eSIM IoT, the need came up out of these kind of use cases, because these use cases cannot really be solved by the current specification that we, for example, designed for the automakers, which was the M2M, or for the consumer devices and smartphones. So therefore, we decided that we needed yet again another eSIM specification, and that's where we came back with the idea back in 2019, and with the craziness of COVID, to develop one more eSIM specification for IoT. So if we go to the next slide, please. So what is the eSIM IoT specification? So we're not great at giving names to our specifications, so we've called this SGP31 and SGP32 as a continuation of our specification 01 and 02 for M2M and 2122 for consumer. And what it is a specification that it is based on the consumer solution, which means if anyone has already deployed and has invested in a consumer solution, there is really little to be added in order to have this new eSIM IoT solution. Therefore, because it is based on consumer, it's based on push, it incorporates use cases for new kind of devices, for example, without screen, or narrowband IoT devices with technologies that are lower than the one required in smartphones. And it is said to be cost effective, in the sense that if you've already invested on a consumer solution, it is not that much more that you need to go through to get an IoT solution in this case. But what is new is these two elements that I've tried to represent on the screen here. One is called the IoT Manager. In the technical specification, you would find it as EIM, eUICC IoT Manager, and the IoT Assistant, which is, you would find it within the technical specification as IPA, and this stands for IoT Profile Assistant, which is, if you know the consumer, a similar entity to the LPA, which we have in consumer. So this is what we defined when we came to defining the specification and these new entities. And the reason why we needed these two new entities was precisely to address these kind of use cases that we've introduced in eSIM IoT, or that we've tried to actually resolve with this specification, which are devices without screen or with low capabilities when it comes to network. So that's why these two really give us the flexibility to address all of those use cases. So if we go to the next slide. So what is how to get from specification to product on the market? This is one of the questions we get the most. When developing standards, we know we are slow, although probably faster than other organizations. We know in general we are slow. So nevertheless, over the course, as I said, from starting back in 2019 and with all the craziness, we have achieved to publish the IoT architecture and technical specification in 2023. We also published the eSIM IoT security specifications, which is actually a great milestone for us. This is something that it is called the protection profile, and that it is a very technical and ensure the robustness of the software. We did it for consumer and M2M, and we again have extended to cover IoT. This is really a great milestone for the industry. This is something the MNOs has really been asking for, because it really ensures that the software where they download their profile and their subscription is robust and secure as the requirements expected to be in, for example, Europe. We've also managed, thanks to a group called Fraud and Security Group within GSMA, to publish new specifications for IoT eSIM production site. This is called SAS, Security Accreditation Scheme, and for production, which mean the factories where the eUICCs are produced, and the same for the factories or for the locations where the servers are implemented. So all of this we've done in 2023, obviously thanks to previous deployments in previous years. And what is expected to happen in 2024 now, it is that we're going to launch new specification. They're coming very soon, in a couple of months, at the end of March. And this is the specification that have been used by the industry and that we have been enhancing, correcting, because this is the one that it is now currently implemented by the vendors. So this is, we're really hoping, the one that is going to address all of the problems, and it could be widely implemented, and it's coming up in March. So what we're going to see as well in March is the certified IoT servers are an IoT manager, or at least GSMA will have the capability to certify this. And why is that? Is because we will have the test specification for demonstrate functional compliance to these three entities. Once this is ready, GSMA can launch the compliance specification, the compliance process that would allow those three entities, servers and the new IoT manager, to be certified and ready to communicate with other entities on the market. Later in the year, around June, we'll have certified IoT assistant. This is similar to the LPA that I mentioned before. It's called the IPA. And this is for the IoT in case this is installed inside the device. It's coming in June. This is because of our collaboration with an organization called Global Certification Forum, GCF, that runs a certified program for our IPAs and previously LPAs for consumer. And then at the end of the year, we'll also see certified eSIMs, and this is because also we need to wait for testing to be ready for samples from the industry, and this is the information we got so far, that the sooner they can get this function and certified and tested, it is Q4. So we're expecting to have and to see certified eSIM by the end of 2024. So this is overall how we're going to get from specification to market in the coming years. So it is a lot to do, but we're hopeful we will get there. So if we go to the next slide, please. What it has been really important for us, for GSMA, is to complement what we do in terms of standards with the services that GSMA run. The eSIM services in this case allow us to demonstrate that the solutions for the eSIM are robust and what the industry is being required of us. So one of those services is the Security Accreditation Scheme, ESA scheme for short, and this certifies the eSIM software and the hardware implementation. As I said, this is what we've called protection profile. We've been working on very hard lately. It contains a number of security assets that need to be protected, and the industry needs to demonstrate that the protections are secure enough to a very high level of EIL4+, it is called, and that's what the industry is expecting. I mentioned also before the Security Accreditation Scheme. This is a scheme from GSMA for the certification on the factories where the eSIMs are produced and where the servers are implemented. And this is also been an advantage for GSMA, so we can ensure that the security around the processes and the protocols in the factories and implementation site are secure enough. And we have been enlarging it recently to cover the IoT specification. So this is all now ready. There is also the compliance process, which is really what it is needed for members, for companies to obtain a digital certificate to operate within the GSMA eSIM ecosystem. What this certificate really is the key that opens the door to communicate between different entities, different operators into different eUICCs, and that would really allow us true interoperability. There is also the identity scheme, the EIS identification for the eSIM, and the eSIM discovery servers, the eSIM discovery, which is a digital method for profile activation. And then I'm not going to go into details because I know my colleague Chris Lee later on will be talking to you about this in detail. So we go now to the next slide, please. Trying to do this quick because I know we lost a little bit of time before with Pablo. So the highlights of IoT, and here I finish and I let you go. One of the key things that we've done in eSIM IoT, and obviously if you read the specifications, you will learn more about this. Are the 6 on the screen, at least in my humble opinion. So one of them is the download optimization, where an organization called TCA, with which we're very happy to collaborate, and we always have a great collaboration with, have developed this light profile template. With this light profile template, we've managed to optimize to the maximum possible the number of bits that are included inside the profiles. So the profiles that are downloaded into an IoT eSIM are optimized and to the minimum possible, so to ensure a fast download into the embedded SIMs. Then there is also the end user intent, which is now possible in the cloud or in the server. That was not possible before. Then there is also the fact that we've addressed, or that we have welcomed into the family of eSIM IoT device without user intent. Without a screen, no user intent, without user interface. Then there was also this constraint that for TCP and IP, and now we've managed for our eSIM IoT specification to remove the dependencies with SMS and TCP/IP which is also something that the industry has been requesting for a while now. Also, constrained IoT and B2B fleet management use cases are now covered. There's still some way to go, and additional use cases may have to be resolved. But at the moment, we've covered the minimum of what the industry was also expecting for this first version of IoT. And we've also covered SMS-less and LP1, for example, narrowband IoT devices. So this obviously is, as I said before, in my opinion, what the highlights of the eSIM IoT it is. And these are very brand new specifications. We're learning from our mistake on another specifications, and we are trying to improve it as much as possible to obviously make it fit for purpose for the market that we're trying to address. This is the IoT market. And yes, finally, sorry, we have here the eSIM IoT specification, QR codes. I'd recommend you go through it. It has some nice pictures. And if you have some technical experts, they can obviously go through it. And if you find any mistakes, please let me know. I'm handling this. So we'll be happy to listen to your comments to these specifications.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yolanda San. I am the eSIM Working Group Director. And today I'm going to explain the latest updates for the eSIM consumer specification.
Yolanda, do you just want to turn your camera on so people can see your lovely face?
I am with the camera on.
Ah, okay, that might be my end. No worries, carry on.
Okay, no problem. So, but before entering into the details of the different features that we have defined, I would like to take some of the data from Pablo's presentation. Pablo has already mentioned that there are more than 200 eSIM devices that has been already launched and around 400 operators supporting the eSIM technology. The most popular eSIM devices are, of course, the smartphones and the tablets using the eSIM. But I would like to mention also the smartwatch, because thanks to the side of the eSIM plus the telco operator, we can have connected those type of devices. And also I would like to mention, because the smartwatch was the first use cases that we covered in the first specification that we released. I don't want to forget the laptops, where the eSIM play a key role. Every day we need the user to get connected, but not only connected, also secure connected in order to transfer data. And thanks to the eSIM plus the operator profile, those users can use the laptop in order to transfer information as required at any point of time. But let's go into the details of the features for version 3. So next slide, please. There are 7 years between the version 2 release and version 3 release. Of course, I'm not going to explain the reasons why today. Nevertheless, over those years, we have captured the key features that the device manufacturers and the telco operator were required for the eSIM technology. Over those years, also, we have improved the eSIM services, ensuring the robustness of the eSIM ecosystem. And I will enter in more details on the eSIM service afterwards, because first, I would like to focus on 2 key features: multiple enable profile and device chain. And now you are may asking why those features. The first one, multiple enable profile, is because it was one of the main drivers of the eSIM technology. We didn't include in version 2 for reasons that I'm not going to explain today. Nevertheless, we finally include this feature in version 3. The second one is the device chain. And I would like to highlight that because it provides similar mechanisms for the user to swap the profile from one device to another device. And let's go into more details for those particular features. Next slide, please. For the user, multiple enable profile means the possibility to connect the device to different networks. In the context of the SIM card, the user needs to have what we call dual SIM device. That, of course, has a cost associated to those particular devices. This device needs to have 2 slots to insert the SIM card, which also limited the capacity of the device to have other device items, such as largest battery. The user needs to have two physical SIMs, which is also a waste of plastic derived from this kind of use cases. Those physical SIM needs to be inserted in the device in order to have connection to two different networks, which also drain the battery of the device, which, as we know, is a key element for the device manufacturer. In version 2, we have two types of configuration in order to allow multiple enable profile. I have to say that those type of configuration brings the same disadvantage as the traditional SIM card. The first configuration is where we have a SIM slot where we insert a SIM card to connect with operator 1. And then we have the eSIM hardware that, although we allow multiple profiles to be installed, only one is allowed to be active at any point of time in version 2. The second configuration that we have is when we have two physical eSIM embedded on the device. One of them is connected to one operator and the other one is connected to the operator 2. As I already mentioned, both configurations bring the same disadvantage as the one that we have with the SIM card. Finally, in version 3, we have a single hardware, which is the eSIM, where we allow multiple enable profiles active at the same time. For simplicity, I put here only two enable profiles active at the same time. Nevertheless, the eSIM specifications does not limit the number of profiles that can be active, because of course this depends on two things. The first one is the eUICC memory, and the second one is the capacity of the modem to manage different profiles at the same time. As you can imagine, this brings the advantages that having only a single hardware, we have more capacities for other device items that are required for the device manufacturers, such as larger battery. But also, this feature allows devices smaller as the smartwatch to have the capability to have multiple enabled profiles active at the same time, which of course is a great user experience that the device manufacturers and the operators can provide at the end. Let's move to the next one. Let's talk about now device change. As I already anticipated, this allows the possibility for the user to swap the operator profile from one device to another. But let's remind everyone how the SIM swap is done on the SIM card. Next, please. The user gets a new device, and in order to get connected this device, the user needs to take out the SIM card from the old device. Next, please. And insert it in the new device. Next one. Thanks to the SIM card, this old device is connecting to the operator. Next one, please. And next one. And of course, the old device loses all the connection as soon as the SIM card is removed from the device. In the context of the eSIM chain, so I'm going to explain this feature from the user perspective. But I would like to highlight that there are some operation and activity that needs to happen on the operator backend system in order to make sure that the device chain is performed. In this case, the user gets a new phone. Next slide, please. Next, please. Sorry. Then this new phone gets contact with the old phone in order to transfer the profile. The user needs to consent the profile transfer, and then when this is consent and the operator also is aware, then the profile is going to be deleted from the old device in order to move to the new device. And then next, please, is finally connecting to the operator. As I already said, so it is required some step on the back end in order to make sure that the profile is transferred. This means that the operator needs to notify that the profile has been deleted from the old device in order to be able to download this profile into the new device. This means that the eSIM device change that we have defined in version 3 is adding some security layers that are required for the SIM swap that we don't have on the traditional SIM, but we have added for eSIM device change. So making the eSIM profile transfer more secure as the traditional SIM card. Next slide, please. Now, let's talk about the eSIM services. As I already anticipated, the eSIM consumer market is an open market. And this means for us that anyone should trust anyone. So that means the operator needs to be able to download the UI, to download the profile into any eUICC in the world, and vice versa. The eUICC and the device needs to make sure that the profile is downloaded in a security manner for any kind of operator that we have in the world. In this particular area, the eSIM service play an important role ensuring this level of trust that it is required on the eSIM ecosystem. And let's start with the first one, the eUICC. The operator needs to make sure that when the profile download is installed, their data is secure enough on the eUICC. And that's why we have the eSIM security assurance schema, where ensure the certification of the hardware and the software of the eUICC to make sure that the operator data is stored in a security manner. Next one, please. As we are always focused on the consumer, we want to provide the consumer the freedom to select any operator that they want to have for their device. This implies that the device needs to know what are the operator server is the one that is ready to download a profile. And that's the role of the eSIM discovery, to link the operator server with the device in order to be able to download a new profile into this device. Next one, please. With the eSIM, we have changed the ecosystem. The operator is no longer the owner of the eUICC. That's why we don't need the identifier of the operator embedded on the eUICC identifier. That's why it is required for the eUICC manufacturer to get their own identifiers to build the final identification of the eUICC. And that's the role where the eSIM identity schema has. GSMA is providing some digits to the eUICC manufacturer that help them to build their final identification of the eUICC. Next one, please. As I already anticipated, we need to have certain level of trust between the entities. We have already speak about the software and hardware certification that we have on the eUICC, but we have the server and also the factory where the eUICC are produced. And we need to make sure that those factories plus the operator server are secure for the data that the operator is stored on that. And that's the role of the security accreditation schema, making sure that the server and the eUICC factories are ensuring certain level of security to maintain the access of the operator in a secure space. Together with another functional compliance, is allow also the servers to get the PKI certificate that it is required for the device and the eUICC to trust the operator server. The last but not the least, we have the eSIM compliance process. This is the glue for the different eSIM services that we have. This defined set of requirements for the certification of the entities that we have on the ecosystem that allow those entities to get the PKI certificate that is the key to enter in the GSMA eSIM ecosystem, keeping the GSMA ecosystem secure enough. Last slide from my side. So I would like to conclude that with the set of features that we have defined, we have complete the key feature that was requested by the telco operator, but also by the device manufacturer. Those set of features, together with the set of use cases that we have defined, are behind the maturity of the eSIM specification. Thanks to this maturity, we are ready to say that the eSIM technology is ready to grow. because the operators and the device manufacturer will not miss the opportunity to implement those features to improve the user experience for the eSIM ecosystem. But our work doesn't finish here. The eSIM technology is involved, and we have the eSIM industry players looking always the market in order to adapt the eSIM technology to the market needs. That's why we are working in a new specification that is called factory provisioning that will allow the device manufacturers to provisioning profiles at the time that the device is in the manufacture process. And the last but not the least, you will allow me 1 minute to talk about quantum computers. So we have no doubt that quantum computers will bring a lot of advantage in different areas like medicine, mathematics, and so on. But we don't have to forget that quantum computers will also bring some security threats that needs to be considered. That's why the eSIM industry in GSMA is analyzing the eSIM protocols in order to make sure that those protocols are going to be secure against computers, against quantum computers attack. And of course, monitoring the standardization evolution that is required for the eSIM specification.
Thank you, Chris. So I'm the other Chris, based in Asia. So I'm here to talk about the discovery service, which Yolanda and Gloria both mentioned. Before that, I will really want to remind one of the sharing from Pablo that we are on a high adoption scenario, going to have 8 billion device smartphones supporting eSIM on 2030. So getting to that number, making sure we have the infrastructure and the correct consumer experience to support that growth is going to be paramount. I mean, today people learn about like ejecting the SIM card and inserting to the new SIM card easily. But then in that 2030, not that distinct future, we will need to help a lot of customers to transition to this new eSIM experience. And it's not an easy one. So currently, like when a lot of people that I talk with, many of them are industry players, they still see a lot of a relatively high reliance on QR code as the main deployment process of eSIM. And then they are sharing with me that like smartphones of different brands and models, smartwatches, IoT device, each have their own very independent customer experience. I mean, some clicks the menu in certain ways, the other may need you to reboot the device a couple of times. Not ideal. And then when you learn, when Gloria talks about the IoT, they don't have it. They may have a screen, they may not have a screen. They may have too many cameras, they may not have cameras. So talking about the consumer or the end user experience when it goes in the field start to become more important. Next slide, please. So what is GSMA eSIM discovery? As Yolanda briefly touched base on, we provide a streamlined customer experience so as to download the eSIM profile, knowing where the operator placed the eSIM profiles at a centralized location operated by GSMA. GSMA is, or otherwise known as DS, provides the universal independent lookup service. And it's particularly great when you provide an open box experience to the customer. Next slide, please. So when you see like discovery being mentioned a couple of times, like your first question is it being used? Is it like a very common program? It's starting up. And we have two very great operators, Deutsche Telekom and Vodafone, who are more open to us to interview them and ask what is the benefit for them to introduce discovery. There are 2 case studies that I will invite you to have a look later after this webinar. But yeah, they are great learnings from the big guys. Next slide, please. So coming back to discovery, we say about like it is a very streamlined experience. What are the numbers? We work with 4 discovery providers to provide the service, and more are coming. And we are servicing 200 plus device with support from 50 plus operator accounts. And I'm pleased to update that we have been supporting 78 million unique device since 2020. So it has been like supported by various different devices in the market, which we will be showing some of the details later as well. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, so maybe there's a, can we go back one slide? There has been some delay. Okay, so with the service provider, we are working with 4 existing service provider, G&D, Truephone, Thales, and IDEMIA, to provide a turnkey solution to our operators, while we have more SMTP Plus in the pipeline that is coming on board as well. I mean, GSMA is always welcome to work with more SMTP Plus operators, so as to bring this discovery activation process as easy as possible for the operators. So when we talk about how easy it is, so let me share with you. Next slide, please. So imagine you are buying a device from the operators. The discovery process is easy. The operator simply capture the EID from the device and have the link up with the customer's profile. Once the device switch on, it checks in with the discovery system and see if there's any profiles waiting for the device to download. Once that's identified, it triggers the DP Plus process and download the profiles and activate the service profile. As you can see, there's not much like a customer interaction other than like a standard device activation process, bearing like no more QR code scanning or manual data entry or operator applications. Next slide, please. So when we talk about like a great open box experience, the next question is which device supported? We are pleased to report that major brands are supporting the service. And as part of the specification, we are welcoming all the device manufacturers to just come with GSMA to provide this automated service. Next slide, please. So when we talk about the 50 plus MNO accounts, you will probably ask like where they are coming from. And here we have a little diagram of the world showing that our operators from mainly Europe area, and we have some support from America, and then some Asia countries as well. So which is like, it is everywhere. Next slide, please. So as Yolanda mentioned and Gloria mentions, the discovery has been like a good activation process, and it is continuously evolving. With the introduction of consumer version 3 specification, we are looking into expanding the service to support push notification, which brings an even more timely manner for delivering the profiles to the customer. And IoT segment has been an exciting new development for us to how to support the IoT segment better to provide this seamless activation. Next slide, please. And we are ready to scale. I mean, just as simple as that. We are cloud-based, we can deploy new sites, and we can have additional geo redundancy and SLA improvement if we need, or as the industry need, more importantly, and we are ready to grow with the industry together. Next slide, please. So a little bit of recap, we have great digital user experience, streamlined the download process, universal, and IoT has been like a very interesting segment for us to support as well.
But we do have some questions in the chat, so I'm going to start with the most popular ones. when will we see eSIM IoT solutions on the market? That's probably best for Gloria, if you don't mind picking that one up.
My apologies, Chris. Can you repeat the question, please?
When will we see eSIM IoT solutions on the market?
Thank you. So as I explained in my presentation, we're gonna see solutions for servers and the IoT manager as soon as Q1 this year. At least we will have everything ready that allows anyone to come through and certify an SMDP Plus, an SMDS, or an eIM for IoT. We'll have to wait until June to see the IoT Assistant certified, because we need the GCF certifications to be ready. And then for eSIMs, we'll have to wait until the end of the year. And this is because we're waiting for the certification program, functional certification program, to be ready. But everything else will be ready. So please go and read our specifications, start developing, ask me any question you need in order to start speeding up the process to become certified.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. This one is probably for Pablo. Do you have any insights into consumer interest in adopting eSIM? Obviously, we've had the news in the last year about the Apple iPhone, but is there anything wider that you're willing to share with us?
Sure. So in terms of consumer interest, what we do is we do a survey. We ask consumers a number of questions. And one of the questions is, hey, consumer, are you interested in using eSIM at some point in the future in your smartphone? And the situation is on average, across the markets that we track, half of consumers said, yes, I'm interested in using eSIM. Another 35% said, not yet. And another 15% said, I'm not sure. So 50% means interested in eSIM. It means that it's a really good base to start with for operators. What is important is the customer education. Talking to consumers about the benefits of eSIM, what eSIM brings to the table.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to try and squeeze in two more questions. So, Yolanda, is there a limit to how many eSIM profiles we could have in our mobiles?
No, according to our eSIM specifications, because it's totally open, and this depends on the capacity of the memory of the eUICC, but also the capacity of the modem to manage several connections to the network at the same time. So because of that, we cannot specify this kind of limitation, but of course it will depend on the different implementation that we can have in the market.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm not sure who this is best for, so hopefully you'll all listen out carefully. So which actors do we expect to be filling certified IoT manager roles? For example, do we expect MNOs to be doing that, or is there another sort of company that we'd expect to fill those certified IoT manager roles?
I can take this one, Chris. So we could see anybody, really. We're not limiting the specification. We're not defining who can play each role. But I would certainly see MNOs playing certain roles for certain enterprise ecosystem. But the usual players that are already playing server, they already providing server ecosystem, functionalities are likely to play as well. For instance, the eIM in instances where the eIM is similar to a server or a cloud server. That's what I would say. So similar entities, and it would really depend on the solution and the use case. Different companies may play different roles.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And that is the full hour. And I'm aware that we've already taken up everyone's time. So I'd like to, first of all, thank all you speakers for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us. I certainly feel I'm a lot more informed about eSIM now, and I'm sure those at home do as well. And thank you to everyone at home for attending in whatever time zone you're in.